friends! Welcome to Canary at Home. I'm Lacey, and today we're going to be exploring mark making with Sumi ink and oil pastels. Now, it was very bold of us to send Sumi ink into your homes because, well, it's black ink. But it's one of our favorite materials to explore in the studio, and we really wanted you to have a chance to explore it from home. But there's some really important ground rules that I want you to remember when you're using this material in your homes. First, the best way not to get Sumi ink on your nice rug is to use your Sumi ink outside. So if you have a chance, I would love for you to do this exploration outside today. Second, you want to cover your work surface and also your clothes. So whatever you're working on, whether it's outside or inside, throw a drop cloth, roll out some newspaper or some craft paper over your work surface so it protects it. You can also wear a smock or an old t-shirt to protect your clothes. Third, we have included in your materials pack a little paper tray. When you're working with your Sumi ink cup, I want you to always leave that ink cup in the tray just in case the ink spills, the tray will catch it. And finally, today we are working with tools. We are not going to be working with our hands. Sometimes when we paint, it's okay to use our hands and explore with our fingers, but today we're just gonna use our paintbrushes, our dowels, or any tools that you find in nature, like sticks, to do your mark making. Okay, now that we've gone over those ground rules, I want to tell you a little bit about the material of Sumi ink. It's a natural material and it's non-toxic, and it comes from the soot of pine branches from the beautiful mountainsides of Japan. How cool is that? The art of Japanese ink painting is ancient, and the focus has always been on the quality of line and the range of tones that you can get with the Sumi ink. So today, we're going to explore different ways that you can make lines with your Sumi ink. We're also going to explore the ways that you can make a range of tones by adding water to your Sumi ink. So we'll be showing you various processes throughout the video that will explore these concepts. And then after your ink paintings dry, if you choose, you'll be able to add color with your oil pastels that we've provided to you. So in your Canary at Home kit, you're going to have a little cup of Sumi ink. You will not dilute this like we sometimes do with liquid watercolor. You'll have 3 oil pastels. You'll have a small or medium paintbrush. You can also use other brushes from your collection at home if you want to explore different thicknesses of line. You'll have a dowel, a mini roll of tape, 4 sheets of medium-sized paper, and you'll also need a cup of water. So let's get started. First, we'll start exploring line with our Sumi ink. Now, set up your paper. Whenever you use paper and you're deciding on your composition, you have 2 choices. You can go vertical or horizontal. Today I'm going to work horizontal. Now, lines are long, thin marks, and we can make those in many different ways, infinite ways, depending on how you move your drawing tool and how you move your body to move your drawing tool. So I'm going to gently dip my brush into the Sumi ink, and then I'm going to explore what happens to the line quality when I move my brush in different ways. Now, if I drag my brush straight down the paper, I get a nice straight line. I'm not applying much pressure, so if I apply pressure and press it harder into the paper, the line is a little thicker. I could move my brush up and down. And that makes a zigzag type quality. Or I could dance my brush around the page. And let's see. That creates kind of a curvy, organic line. So as you can see, the way that I move my hand and my brush affects the type of line that I make. And the more that you explore different ways of moving that ink around with your tool, the more you will know about how that ink works. What would happen if we took this brush and we extended it to see what happens to the line?
So in your kit you have a long dowel and you have a little roll of tape, and you'll tape your brush to the end of this dowel, and that will extend your drawing or painting tool. If you want to make an even longer extension, you could find a long branch outside in your yard, and you can tape your brush to the end of a branch. You might need a little help from a grown-up for that part. As you can see, for this exploration, I decided to do it outdoors. So what I've done is I've lined my workspace with some newspaper. You could use an old sheet or a drop cloth or an old towel. And then I've placed my larger sheet of paper onto the newspaper. Now, notice kind of how your arm movements change with the longer tool. I feel more prone to like be a composer and extend my arm and move it around in these sort of dancing type of motions. So I'm going to dip my brush into the ink and see what happens. Ooh. I'm noticing I don't have as much control over my line, but it kind of makes for an interesting line quality. The length of this tool kind of makes me want to dap, 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 dap the brush and see what happens. And now because my paper is on the ground and I have this extension on the brush, I could even stand up and incorporate more of my body movement into my line. So as you can see, changing your location, changing your angle or your perspective, and changing your tool will affect the type of painting that you make.
Now that we've talked about line quality, let's talk about tones. Now, tones are the shades from light to dark or dark to light, all of those different grays that you find in between white and black. With Sumi ink, we can make different tones by adding water to our ink. So to explore tones and the way the water changes the Sumi ink, I'm going to first make a dark black line with my Sumi ink, and then I'm going to add some water to that with my paintbrush and see what happens. As you can see, the water is diluting the ink, and the ink is kind of flowing into those little puddles of water, and it makes for nice shades of gray and also these kind of swirly, cloudy effects. You could take your paper and kind of swirl that around a little, see what happens with the drops. Again, this is a great thing to do outside, but you could also carefully control it inside. Watch as the ink kind of bleeds into that water and creates that branch-like effect. It's very meditative. So now on my painting, you can notice that you can see the dark tones that I first started with from the ink straight out of the cup to all the different medium and light tones that I have found when I add water. Your ink paintings will be beautiful on their own with just the blacks and whites, but if you'd like to add a pop of color, we've included some oil pastels to add a new layer onto your paintings. So once your ink paintings have dried, my line painting here has dried, you can start to add your color. What I'm gonna do is focus on the negative space where I haven't made lines. So I think I'll color in the spaces in between all of these lines. Now, negative space is the space between the marks that you've made. So like this circle, for example, is a negative space. And I'm gonna take this pink pastel and I'm gonna make a nice solid pink color in that negative space. It kind of activates the negative space. You can always choose to mix oil pastels. So I could put yellow on top of pink. Oh, I'm getting some orange. So when you're adding your oil pastel, you just color it until you feel like it's complete, until there's as much color as you want. Maybe you'll fill the whole page, maybe you'll just add touches of color. That is completely up to you. There's no right or wrong way to do any of this. You're the artist. So I'm gonna be finished for now. And then I'm gonna tell you about one more challenge that you can do with your Sumi ink. So in the studio, we really like to explore Sumi painting for observation. So you can choose an object that you love, or fruits or vegetables or potted plants work really well, and really observe their shapes and forms and use your Sumi ink to create the contour, the lines of the object, and also the textures of the object. Here are 3 examples. These are pineapples that students in our drawing club have done. A self-portrait is always a great thing to draw big. And this one is a snake plant. Now these objects are drawn on bigger paper. So if you have any really big paper at home, Sumi ink is really fun to explore on really big paper, or you can use the medium paper that we've provided. I hope you've enjoyed watching all the explorations with Sumi ink today and learning a little bit about this material. I think that you'll have a lot of fun exploring it on your own. And I want you to remember that there's no right or wrong way to explore materials. As long as they're using them in a way that speaks to you, you are learning a lot about it and you are being an artist. Thanks for joining us today, friends. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more great lessons and show us your work. Tag us on Instagram at @OCanaryArt. Bye. Hi grown-ups. I just wanted to speak to the setup of art materials. So an activity like this can be as contained as you want it to be or as free as you want it to be, depending on the setup. If you want it to be a little more contained, you're going to tape off a very specific work area on a table indoors or outdoors. And that area is going to define the space for your child. You're also going to put the ink on that tray. You're going to lay everything out exactly in the order that the child would use it. As an art teacher, setup is super important. I often have a dream that I've showed up to class and I haven't had enough time to set up. So we want to make sure that we're thoughtful about the way that we are presenting materials to children, and that will contain the mess, and it will also focus their attention on the exploration.